The end. Wow, Wario, nice story. Very cool. Wait, weren't we over there and wasn't I wearing a clown costume? Did you really say clown? Yeah. Wow, Link, you look very cool. Yeah. You're our neighbor. Yeah, thanks, Luigi. You know, I got tired of looking like a noob cartoon. Hey, you guys telling scary stories? Oh, I'm good at that. Let me tell you a story about another blonde, blue-eyed guy that who's a clown. Yeah. It was a nice summer day. My 5-year-old son, Bowser Jr., was playing outside in the backyard of our castle home. Junior has always been a quiet boy. He plays by himself mostly. He never had many friends, but he has always had a wild imagination. I was in the kitchen feeding our chain chompy, whatever, when I heard what sounded like Junior talking to someone in the backyard. I'm not sure who it was he could be talking to. Could he have finally made a friend? Being a single dad, it's hard for me to always keep an eye on my son. So I decided to go outside and check on him. When I went into the backyard, I was a bit confused because Junior was the only person back there. Was he talking to himself? I could have sworn I heard another voice.
Junior, it's time to come inside.
I called out to him. He came inside and sat down at the kitchen table. It was about lunchtime, so I decided to make him a turkey sandwich.
Junior, who were you talking to out there?
I asked. Junior looked up for a moment.
I was playing with my new friend,
he said, smiling. I poured him some milk and continued to pry, as any good father would.
Does your friend have a name? Why did you ask him to meet your tutor?
I asked. Junior stared at me for a moment before replying.
His name is Laughing Popee.
I was a bit taken back by what he had said.
Oh, that's a strange name. What does your friend look like?
I asked, a bit confused.
He's a clown. He has blonde hair in a blue bag. He's got long bunny ears and a onesie that's with red and white stripes, and he always smiles.
I realized my son was talking about an imaginary friend. I suppose it is normal for kids his age to have those, especially when he has no real kids to play with. It's probably just a phase. The rest of the day went by as per usual, and it was starting to get late, so I put Junior to bed. I tucked him in, gave him a kiss, and made sure to turn on his nightlight before I closed the door. I was pretty tired myself, so I decided to go to bed not long after. I had an awful nightmare. It was dark. I was in some kind of rundown circus in the desert. I was scared, running around an endless field of empty tents, broken down rides, and abandoned game huts. The whole place had a horrible look to it. Everything was black and white. The prized stuffed animals all hung from nooses in the game huts, all with sick grins stitched on their faces. Felt like the whole circus was looking at me, even though there wasn't another living thing in sight. Then suddenly I began to hear music play. The sounds of I don't even know what it was. It was being sung in some kind of foreign language I couldn't pin down. It was being played on a squeeze box, echoed through echoing throughout the park. Oh my goodness. It was hypnotizing. I followed its tune to the big circus tent in the middle of it all, almost in a trance, unable to stop my legs from moving forward. It was pitch black. The only light came from a single spotlight shining on the center of the big top. As I walked toward the light, the music slowed down. I found myself singing along, unable to stop. Danger at the Popee's clown. The music stopped right before what I guess it was supposed to be its climax, and suddenly the lights shot on. The intensity of the lights was practically blinding. All I could see was a small, dark silhouette shuffle towards me. Then another one appeared, and another, and another. There were dozens of them, all coming toward me. I couldn't move. My legs were frozen. All I could do was watch as the haunting figures drew nearer. As they got closer, I could see they were children. As I looked at each one, I noticed they were all horribly disfigured and mutilated. Some had cuts all over their body, others were severely burnt, and others were missing limbs, even eyes. The children enveloped me, clawing at my flesh, dragging me to the ground, and inside tearing inside me. As the children tore me apart and I faded away, all I could hear was laughter. Horrible, awful, evil laughter. I woke up the next morning in a cold sweat. After taking a few breaths, I looked over and saw that a few of Junior's action figures were on my bed. I sighed. Junior had probably woken up early and put these here. I gathered up the toys and made my way to Junior's room. However, when I opened the door, Junior was sound asleep. I just shrugged and placed the toys back into his toy box and headed out to the living room. A little while later, Junior woke up and I made him breakfast. He was quiet and seemed a bit groggy. Perhaps he didn't sleep well either. I decided to ask him about the toys. Junior, did you put His eyes shut up at me for a moment,
Junior, honey, did you put the toys in Daddy's room this morning?
then quickly glanced down at his cereal.
Laughing Popee did it.
I rolled my eyes and responded,
Will you tell Laughing Popee to keep the toys in your room?
Junior nodded and finished up his breakfast, then decided to go play out in the backyard. I went to relax in the living room, and I must have dozed off because I woke up a couple hours later. Crap, I need to check on Junior. I was a bit worried. It's been over 2 hours and I haven't checked on him. I stepped out into the backyard, but Junior wasn't there anymore. I was getting nervous, so I called out to him.
Junior? Junior, where are you?
Just then I heard a giggle come from the front yard. I rushed through the gates around to the front of the house. Junior was sitting on the sidewalk. I breathed a sigh of relief and walked over to him.
Junior, how many times have I told you to stay in the back? Junior, what are you eating?
Junior looked up at me and then reached into the bag and pulled out a handful of Hershey bars. This made me very nervous.
Junior, who gave you that candy?
Junior just stared at me, not speaking.
Junior, please tell Daddy where you got the candy.
Junior hung his head down and said,
Laughing Popee gave it to me.
My heart sank. I kneeled down to look him in the eye.
Junior, I've had enough of this damn Laughing Popee thing. He is not real. Now this is very serious situation. And I need to know who gave you the candy.
I could see my son's eyes tear up.
Papa, Laughing Popee did give me the candy.
I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Junior has never lied to me, but what he's telling me is impossible. I made him spit out the candy and throw the rest away. Junior appeared to be fine. Maybe I'm just overreacting after all. He could have gotten it from King Boo next door or Toadsworth, I don't know, down the street. Either way, I'm gonna have to keep a closer eye on Junior. Then I put Junior to bed as usual and decided to go to bed early myself. Suddenly, I was woken up by a loud bang coming from the kitchen. I sprung out of bed and hurried down the stairs. When I got to the kitchen, I was horrified. Everything on the counters had been thrown on the floor, and our chain chop, I don't know, hung dead from the light fixture. His body was cut open and stuffed with candy, some Hershey's and some hard candy. I don't know, My shock was quickly broken by a sharp scream coming from Junior's room, followed by loud crashes. I quickly grabbed a knife from the drawer and moved up the stairs with a speed that only a father whose child is in danger could have. I burst through the door and flicked on the lights. Everything in the room was knocked over and tossed on the floor. My poor son in his bed crying and shaking with fear. A pool of urine staining the sheets. I scooped up my child and ran out of the house and went next door to King Boo's house. Luckily, he was still awake. He let me use his phone, and I called the police. It didn't take them long to arrive, and I explained what had happened. They looked at me as if I were crazy. They searched the house, but all they could find was dead chain chomp and two trashed rooms. The officer told me that someone had probably gone into the house and done this right before making a quick escape when they heard me coming up the stairs. I knew it wasn't true. All the doors were locked and none of the windows were open. Whatever was in my house didn't come from outside. The next day, Junior stayed inside, and I didn't want him to leave my sight. I went into the garage and found his old baby monitor and set it up in his room. If anything comes into it tonight, I was going to be able to hear it. I went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest knife from the drawer and put it on my nightstand. Imaginary friend or not, I'm not going to let anything hurt my little boy. Soon enough, night came. I put Junior to bed. He was afraid, but I promised him that I wasn't going to let anything happen to him. I tucked him in and gave him a kiss and turned on the nightlight. Before closing the door, I whispered to him.
I love you.
I tried to stay up as long as I could, but after a few hours, I felt myself drifting off. My baby would be safe for tonight, and I needed to sleep. Just as I lay my head on the pillow, I heard a soft noise come from the baby monitor I had put on my nightstand. At first, it sounded like interference, like the kind of radio would make. Then it turned into a soft moan. Was Junior asleep? Then I heard it. The laugh. The laugh from my nightmare. That horrible laugh. I sprung up from the bed and grabbed the knife from under my pillow. I rushed over to Junior's room and creaked the door open. I couldn't really see anything. I took a few steps in and I could feel the warm, thick liquid on my feet. Suddenly, Junior's nightlight came on. I could see the absolute horror laid out in front of me. Junior's body was nailed up on the wall. I was disgusted. I could hardly believe that this was my baby boy. Then I heard it again, the soft, desperate moan. Junior was still alive! My baby, my poor baby, in so much pain, barely clinging to life. I ran across the room and vomited on the floor, but my sickness was interrupted by a horrible cackle coming from behind me. I spun around while still wiping bile from my mouth. Then out of the shadows emerged the fiend responsible for all this horror, laughing Popee. His sickly-looking pale skin and matted blonde hair stuck out of the bunny ear hat. He had piercing white eyes surrounded by dark black rings. His twisted smile revealed uncanny-looking teeth. He wore a red and white striped clown outfit with grotesque hands. In fact, his whole body itself was grotesque. He was so lanky looking. He looked like he was boneless, like a rag doll. He let out a sickening laugh as if to let me know he was pleased with my reaction to his work. Then levitated towards Junior and began to laugh even more at the horrific sight he has laid out. That was enough to shake me from my terror. I snapped,
Get away from him, you monster!
I rushed at the demon, raising the knife above my head and stabbed down at him. But as soon as the knife touched him, he disappeared in a cloud of black smoke. The knife passed right through and pierced Junior's still beating heart, splashing the warm blood on my face. No, what have I done? My baby. I killed my baby. I immediately fell to my knees. I could hear sirens in the distance growing louder. My boy, my sweet baby boy. I promised Daddy would protect you, but I failed. Junior, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Police soon arrived to find me in front of my son, still wielding the knife covered in my baby's blood. The trial was short. Insanity. I was placed in the mental asylum for the criminal insane, where I've been for the past 2 months. It's not so bad here. The only reason I'm awake now is because someone's playing some weird music outside my window. I'll talk to the orderlies about it in the morning.